Hello, I'm Howie Sheriff, and welcome to another show from You Call This Yoga, our internet TV talk show about accessible yoga. You Call This Yoga is a 501c3 nonprofit with a mission to help the physically challenged and underserved improve their life with yoga. After I attended the Accessible Yoga Conference last fall in Santa Barbara, I was inspired by the teachers there who are out in the world sharing accessible yoga. Seeing some other yoga talk shows, I thought, wouldn't it be great to just bring accessible yoga leaders together? Well, this show is the celebration of 6 months of broadcasting. So we've had 25, including today, You Call This Yoga shows. Over this period of time, we've had local and national and some international leaders in accessible yoga. What I've come to notice is many folks are at least 40 and above. And that makes sense because many of them had long careers and still do, and they've been able to develop relationships. Well, with You Call This Yoga, we are a social entrepreneurial endeavor, meaning that we're trying to bring the concept of accessible yoga out into the world via our programs in Wake and Durham County, and hopefully beyond. We have at this point roughly 10 teachers who are under our umbrella of sharing their forms of accessible yoga. Today we have a pleasure of bringing on one of our teachers who is what we may call a rising star in the yoga community. This isn't because I say so, it's because her teachers say so. So we have Lydia Ortega, who I've happened to meet only within the last 6 months, yet because of her passion and skill set, she's become very involved with our organization. So without further rambling by me, because I ask our guests to not speak for more than 3 straight minutes, let's bring on Lydia Ortega from Raleigh. Good morning, Lydia.
Good morning, Howie. How are you?
Oh, just excited to have you in the room and share what you're doing with us and other realms of what your path is so that you might inspire and inform other teachers and participants.
So I met You Call This Yoga as a volunteer. I was still doing my teacher training program when one of the programs they offered was to do a SIVA program, which was volunteer throughout the community. So me just looking around places where I could possibly volunteer and count as contact hours, that's how I came across You Call This Yoga, and I started volunteering at Alliance Medical Ministries to helping basically translate yoga classes into Spanish. And as I got more involved, I also started volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club. And then Howie asked me if I wanted to start my own program anywhere in the community, and I told him, I was like, I'm already here at the Boys and Girls Club. If we can do a program that's more structured and consistent, that would be great. So after that, everything just started becoming more involved. I've also been experiencing a lot more in different communities.
Well, that, listeners, is some of Lydia's introduction, and what we may notice there is that SEVA was part of her teacher training program. One doesn't have to be in a teacher training program to volunteer, though it is pretty essential to have some formal training in yoga. Lydia, could you tell us a little bit more about your yoga teacher training program and how you found them?
Well, actually, I was practicing yoga for about a year and a half prior to doing a yoga training. And from the start, starting off my yoga experience and my own personal practice, it was a little inconsistent. And over time, I was like, I know there's so many benefits to yoga that I'm not fully getting, being aware of. And I knew that there was more to yoga than just doing asanas and doing the physical aspect of it. So I was kind of in the mentality of I'm going to enroll or, start bringing something into my life. I really want to go full on. And I ended up coming across an ad in one of my local gyms for Yoga Legacy. And they just happened to have a yoga training that was starting in 2 weeks from when I saw that poster. So I even waited. I was like, is this really something that I want to do, that I want to commit to? And I gave myself a week. So I told myself, if I'm still thinking about this like every day, days on end, then it's something obviously that I want to, do. And honestly, after a week, I signed up, and the following week, I was starting my yoga training. So through Yoga Legacy, that was a lot of fun.
So it appears that timing and readiness are a big part of a transformation process, but not always. I mean, you found it. It wasn't as if you were really looking for it, is what I'm sensing. Is that true? It was just presented right there, and
Yeah, it was almost just like a sign because I was practicing yoga and the sign kind of just stood out to me, and I just kept thinking about it and thinking about it, every single day, day on end. And I was like, wow, if this is still on my mind, then why not?
mm. Well, it's a beautiful thing when you have the space to actually explore something. We've started out like a movie where we've started in the present and we're gradually creating the backdrop. But let's consider what was your first exposure to yoga, and how did it appear, and where were you living, and what's your family sense about yoga, since it can be new to many a family?
Yeah, my first exposure to yoga was while I was at East Carolina University, and they had a yoga club there. And so I was able to go there because it was affordable since they were free. Being part of the yoga club, we had probably one instructor that was also the president of the organization. And then that's how I got introduced. And then over time, I would start, just taking my own classes at either local gyms or anywhere else in the area. Ever since doing yoga in my own practice, my family wasn't so aware that I was doing it, and it didn't really become more a part of their lives until I did my yoga teacher training, because I felt like I was more aware and more knowledgeable than I was before, in order for me to really talk to them about it.
Mm. And what was their response or perspective over time?
They really enjoy that they have a daughter that's a yoga teacher. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
Like many yoga classes for free at home. My sister also takes yoga classes in her community college, and she's definitely enjoyed it. And sometimes she'll be stealing my mat, but as long as it's for the good.
Well, I guess that's what little siblings do, is
Yeah.
they learn and earn from their elders. So then, have you been teaching some of your family pretty regularly since this training?
I teach them about once a week or maybe even every other week, depending on their schedules, because my parents do work full time, and since their schedules kind of rotate, my sisters are in school. I have one sister that's in a community college, and my other sister's in high school. So their schedules are not always, consistent, and I'll be able to share practice with them whenever I can. For example, sometimes what we do for fun is just practicing acro yoga in our living room.
Lovely. Well, it's a way of family bonding if you can get the buy-in and the appreciation. Viewers and listeners, this is an interactive show, and we do invite your calls, Skype, or chat. Calling is 919-518-9773. Skype is computers 2K voice. And chat is by logging in on the box on the Nissan site and putting in a name for you and sending us a message for Lydia or myself about You Call This Yoga and our service programs. Our service programs reach the physically challenged and underserved. That ranges, not necessarily rages, from youth to middle age through seniors. That's because there's all sorts of potentials for challenges in this world, as we know. We also have programs for veteran services. So if you visit our website, youcallthisyoga.org, you can learn more about our programs, and if so inspired, can even make a donation to support our teacher stipends. We're going to come back to Lydia and ask her to explain how the service program in Yoga Legacy was a important tool to her.
Yeah, the yoga program at Yoga Legacy was, basically crucial in order to practice yoga anywhere in my area. But also, once I started volunteering, I got a different perspective of all the possible tools that I could use and all the different age ranges and different, groups of people that I could really share yoga with. So, but at Yoga Legacy, I thought I had amazing instructors that were also giving a lot of, structure to what we were learning, to what a class should and should not have, the essentials for safety. And also we would practice on each other, bringing yoga classes to our peers and even taking time to just critique each other, not in a negative way, but just as ways that we can grow ourselves.
So would you say it was a constructive feedback?
Yes, constructive feedback.
Excellent.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun because it's also over time as we did trainings, you really got to know your group. And the group that I'm with, I'm still, keep in contact with some of the members I did my training with. And I'm very comfortable with, helping each other out whenever needed.
So it's a beautiful environment to serve each other, is what I'm hearing. Well, Lydia helped to create some pearls, and we're going to get ready for Lydia's first pearl of wisdom. Thank you, Amnon.
I'm going to demonstrate plank pose as a concept towards development. As you slowly start taking a deep inhale, start aligning yourself nice and tall. And I'm going to just gently twist in my chair so you can also see the placement of my arms. We're going to have our arms closed along our sides and make sure that you tuck the elbows in. You're going to take a deep inhale. And then as you exhale, you're going to slowly start pressing those palms forward as you grow and you develop into your first plank pose. Good. Also, as you're pressing, you're going to remind yourself of the elbows tucked in, engaging the shoulder blades. And here, you're also going to start creating some stability in the core. Good. And then we're going to take it back, taking a deep inhale. And then exhale, again, pressing forward. And then we're just going to repeat that a few more times. Inhaling. And exhaling. Again, gently pressing the palms forward. Good. One more. Inhaling. And then exhale one more time. And you can practice that a few more times at your own pace, in your own home, or wherever you'd like.
The concept of development. So often we seem to be rushing from one location or one project or even one thought to another. So how have you, as a teacher, a yoga practitioner, a human being, slowed your processes down so that you can really appreciate the development of them? This is important in accessible yoga as we may not fully express a pose as in a magazine or a book. And therefore, we seek to develop the pose in concert with the breath. So hopefully, whether we're doing arm extensions like plank, spinal extensions like mountain, or even a thought extension such as listening fully. So let's come back to Lydia because we do have a question from our viewers.
So there is a viewer that's asking, what is the biggest benefit you have gotten from working with, you call this yoga, at the Boys and Girls Club?
Well, for starters, working with kids in general really brings to perspective the importance of just having fun with your life. Being able to enjoy and connect with each other. Because, I walked into a Boys and Girls Club with, teaching yoga to the kids, they're not all so much, strict on themselves about alignment and sticking with specific sequences. You walk in there and they're just there trying to have fun. And I feel like that was one of the actually biggest life lessons for me when I started working with youth. I don't have any little siblings around me. My sisters are pretty close in age. So they also see me as almost like just a guide, not just in yoga, but also as a friend. Like, it feels good to be able for them to open up to me and tell me how their day is going at school and, how they're feeling. And feeling is actually another important aspect that I try to bring upon in my yoga classes. To start off with centering themselves, I'll introduce either a breathing technique that they have fun attempting, and also just letting me know how they're feeling at that moment and seeing if there's anything that I could do to help them.
Excellent. Thank you, Lydia.
There's another question. Oh, unless, go ahead.
Oh, there's another question. Wow, a
Yeah,
cascade of questions.
What is Yoga Legacy?
Yoga Legacy is a teacher training program in the Wake area. They don't have a specific facility, but what they do is usually work with other gyms, for example, Fitness Connection. They'll usually reserve spaces there. So we'll do our training, whether it's a 5-month or 10-month period. And then after you do all of the trainings and the non-contact hours and your homework, you'll be able to submit all your certificates to Yoga Alliance, in which then they come back and say, you are now registered either RYT 200, or if you want to do something further, you'll be RYT 500, and so on.
Coming back to the Brentwood Boys and Girls Club and the concept of fun, as we try to collect data, we've come to appreciate it's hard to get data in a clear manner from children. They may not be fully invested to the degree that we are. So even in the sense of having fun, we're looking to collect data in a fun way. And we're going to be testing shout out survey. And that way the children can be participating by sharing their answers audibly, and we can then track them in a different manner than handing out paper and hoping that they'll have the certain insight and integrity to do so. So it's also creating another playful channel for our organization to learn about the benefits of yoga, plus having Lydia as someone on site. Lydia, could you explain a little bit more about the structure of Brentwood and how that might give you comfort or whatever experience it is by working with us? Is there any other benefits? Trying to pitch the org here.
Well, yeah, for sure. Before, when I was just volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club, it was not always consistent, and also depending on different groups of students. We would always get a different wave, whether it's afternoon or if it's more towards the evening. And once I was able to connect with You Call This Yoga, the classes became more consistent at a set time, and I would start being able to see similar students but still have the ability to reach out to new ones that wanted to participate.
Wonderful. New teachers, any brainstorming that you'd like to do with us trying to reach the community? We welcome your inquiries. Existing practitioners, are there ways that you're developing your practice and would like to explore that with us? Feel free to check in. Speaking of development, also what Lydia mentioned was the structure. We do have what's called memos of understanding with our hosts, and that's been very helpful for us as an organization. So if you're out there trying to engage and you'd love to learn more about how we structure our relationships, we're happy to do so. You can reach me at Howie, Howie, at youcallthisyoga.org. And if you have questions for Lydia, you can address them to me too, because you don't know her yet and she doesn't know you yet. But our organization is youcallthisyoga.org on the internet. Moving along with some of Lydia's experiences and training, Lydia, what was the first public class that you taught?
Well, the first public class that I taught was at Alliance Medical Ministries.
Ah.
So it was through You Call This Yoga. I was first volunteering with Elise. She's a great teacher there, and I was there to help translate classes in Spanish as she was teaching. But there was one time where she was going to be out, and she asked me to sub the class for her. So that was my first public class.
Well, I guess I really didn't have my eye on that one then. Well, that's wonderful because that turned out really well in terms of the student feedback. And Alliance Medical Ministry is one of You Call This Yoga's longtime partners in the Raleigh area. They provide health care to the working uninsured. Our organization has been fortunate because they partner with us to support the teacher. They also provide the space and provide prescriptions for yoga. So it's an interesting modality of a healthcare organization prescribing yoga. Teachers and participants and healthcare providers, if you'd like to learn more, feel free to check in with us or acquire while we're on the show. So it's fascinating. I, too, was a volunteer earlier on and had less formal training than Lydia in a relative sense. But volunteering and showing up and just being available is an important element of service. How are you providing service in the yoga community is a good question, and we'd love to hear your answers also. Let's come back to Lydia because Lydia also has another pearl of wisdom to share with you. Thank you, Amnon.
I'm going to demonstrate discipline in the form of mountain pose. You might want to think of discipline and its connection with the word disciple, a follower, and we're going to use that concept to see how our body follows what we're intending to do in the pose. For example, we're going to slowly start aligning our feet with our knees and our hips. We're going to take a moment to just press the heels and the toes down as they ground towards the mat or the floor. Following our discipline, we're going to start focusing on our hips, and we're going to take a deep inhale so we can also start engaging the core as we start straightening out our back. Moving forward, we're going to take a moment to roll the shoulders up and then away from the ears so you can see the difference of how your shoulders should be as they relax down, and it gives you also space to elongate your neck. Again, continuing to take deep inhales and exhales. Relaxed arms on your thighs, face down or up. And one more thing you might want to recognize is how your crown of the head starts reaching towards the ceiling or sky as you inhale and slowly lowers as you exhale. And just repeat that a couple more times. Also drawing attention to how your body's feeling. And I invite you guys to practice discipline in every pose that you do, because it does take a lot of effort and thinking of where your body should be and what you're intending to accomplish.
Oh, discipline. Oh, how much discipline do we really need? Well, apparently a fair amount all throughout the day. As we're sitting here, and I just dropped my phone on the floor, I didn't have the discipline to put it aside. But as we started out with Lydia's first pearl of development, it also takes discipline to stay focused in whatever path we're on. I'd like to learn from Lydia as to how is she, as a teacher or even her young adult state, developed greater discipline over time.
Okay, so I am in a stage where I recently graduated, well, not so recent, from East Carolina University. So stepping out into what you would call the real world would take, for me, a lot of discipline to really figure out what I'm interested in, what I want to show up to, and then just being also open to new experiences. Because once you graduate from East Carolina, it's kind of free for all. You don't really know, still kind of in a limbo of figuring out whether you're going to stick to your degree or whether you're still interested in something else. In my own personal life, I did stick towards my psychology degree. Currently working towards a master's program in clinical mental health. I'm very interested in mindful techniques to help aid in different people or different disorders even, and that's kind of how I would like to tie in yoga, and that's how I also got more involved.
So some of us have our own ways of developing discipline. Lydia, how do you develop your discipline outside of yoga? What other practices besides the breathing, the asana, and the meditation work well for you?
Yeah, in my personal life, I definitely try to get up early, even if I don't have to, because I'm, I guess, a person of habit. I can't necessarily sleep in and expect to be productive throughout the day. What I usually do is either have a big glass of water in the morning to really wake me up, and I also plan the night before of what I want to accomplish the next day. So I'll either have my to-do list or I'll have either a schedule of classes, and I also try to put in what I can do in the blocks in between teaching. So that's one example.
Excellent. Last week on the show, we had Dr. Richard Miller, who shared his discipline of allowing his body to wake up, but also the concept of not jumping out of bed, unless you really have to go to the bathroom. But if you have the capacity to allow oneself to stay in bed a little while longer, it also can be a wonderful way to ease into the day. And I bring that up because I've tried to practice that when I remember to, and not just get up by rote memory and start going. So even the discipline of pausing before one starts the day can foster greater calm and ease for anyone. So I'll invite you, viewers and listeners, to share any of your favorite disciplines to foster a calm and smooth day. Speaking of other disciplines in our yoga path, we have structure within our organization that is developing. One of them is a programming committee which helps to structure and supervise our teachers. We had the luxury recently of having a teacher meeting where Lydia was part of 7 teachers, which is a critical mass for You Call This or for the You Call This Yoga organization, and that this was a first, and that to have this many teachers was amazing. Lydia, what's it like to meet teachers in yoga of all ages and backgrounds?
Well, it's definitely an eye-opening experience. Me still being and even feeling like I'm, just starting off. There's so many people that you can learn from, and all the different experiences that I come across. I also really learn to just, listen and see their perspective and how they've become where they are. Because I do believe that they've had their own experiences in which I could learn from, just to either in order to not make the same mistakes or take routes that might improve myself more so.
Hmm. And when you're teaching, can you share a little bit more about the diverse ages? You mentioned the Brentwood Boys and Girls Club. Who else are you teaching out in the world, and how is our relationship impacting you and your path?
Yeah, well, I feel like the question is like, who am I not teaching? Because I'm teaching youth at the Boys and Girls Club, and their age ranges from like 8 and up. I'm also teaching at a gym called Club Works, and that's more, adults of any age. I also get some teens every now and so. And the other places that I'm teaching through You Call This Yoga is at Ann Gordon Center, and they're more of adaptive seniors classes from 50 and up. So I've also taught some of the chair yoga classes for anyone that's more comfortable being in a chair. And so that's just some of the experiences that I've got so far. I definitely don't plan on just stopping there. I'm very much of the person to try to explore as many niche until I can actually find out one that I'm most comfortable with.
Hmm. And it's hard to say if one niche is really all that we need, because we can learn so much from the different age groups.
Hmm.
Uh, what's happening tomorrow? Tell us about a service that you just recently volunteered for, because I put out a call to many yoga teachers who at this time of year are also on vacation. What's happening tomorrow?
So tomorrow I am volunteering to teach for a group of teens and I guess tweens. So the class is going to be structured to enforce and also invite empowerment, and also to basically be more in touch with your body. Working with teens, they're in a stage where they're still kind of trying to figure out who they are. And when it comes to yoga, it's really important to have them feel comfortable of where they are then and now.
Mm. And it was cute because this past Saturday, as part of our Yoga Fest Raleigh program, we were having a little debriefing time and enjoying some of the hummus from Niamand when we were talking about Lydia's upcoming experience and about empowerment. I shared a little bit about warrior poses as possible elements of empowerment, and Mary was able to share references from a book called Myths of the Asanas, and about a story about Shiva and how the warrior poses came about. And as we may anticipate from Shiva, there was a lot of destruction going on in the development of warrior poses, which is very entertaining in the sense of how we can put something into a story. Uh, speaking of story, I see a signal from Amnon. Is there a story elsewhere?
There is a question here from Diane. She says, what's the biggest challenge that you have faced in teaching the wide variety of classes you teach?
Oh, that's a really good question. And definitely the biggest challenge would be adapting in terms of the types of classes that you're constructing take time. I feel like it always, you need to set some time aside to come up with a class that you want the people to, really benefit from. But then having to come up with many classes for very different groups, it also takes more time to really step away from what class you were just doing and then put yourself in a different position to set up a completely brand new class, a completely new structure, have new techniques. One example would be whether I'm doing the Brentwood Boys and Girls Club. A lot of the classes that I do is whether having a specific or new breathing technique, but also just being creative to come up with games that involve and implement yoga in towards their lives. And then going from teaching an adaptive on the mat class for seniors, it's more, I guess, structured in terms of, well, what would they most want to benefit from?
Wonderful. Thank you, Lydia, on that. Well, viewers and listeners, it's time for a very special, fun and yum, good health tip. Extending from Lydia's mountain, let's go to world headquarters. Standing desks have become very popular, but I believe if one keeps a sense of mountain pose while standing and has the proper positioning of their technology, they could be healthier. However, it's very important to notice the height of the keyboards and the heights of the screens. We like to have a slight downward slope of the forearm when approaching a keyboard. That's commonly known for piano players. We're trying to avoid this praying mantis kind of pose. That could be common when your seat is too low. Notice the height of your keyboard. Also, is the height of your screen at eye level? What do you see? Please consider that. Similarly, when cutting fruits, vegetables, whatever you might be doing in a kitchen, the counter height is also an important element. Folks that are very tall may have to stoop. Folks that are short may have to lift their hands up. So consider the angle, because if you're holding a sharp instrument and you're trying to cut something like this wonderful mango that I like, because it has a very slender pit. Whoa! It has a lot of vitamin A and other nutrients, and by cutting a couple of slices in one direction and a couple of slices, no, I take that back, about 4 slices, can make a little pattern, and then with my elbow in, I can move the mango around and cut safely, steadily, and then I can enjoy my efforts. That mango looked so good and tasted so good that I just was compelled to do another demonstration in the studio, breaking another barrier of not bringing sweet, juicy things around electrical equipment.
So you put the mango back together and wrote it here.
No, it's a real mango this time. It's a real knife this time. And what I'd like to demonstrate is, one more time, when you stand up, to have the elbows in a little bit, to have what I call a surgeon's cut or a grip with a tip over here of the index finger, that I'm keeping my elbows in so I'm not going wild. I'm going wild and mild. Here I've got the mango. What I like to reference is the vertical cuts. Let's say 4 horizontal cuts. The sliding the knife under the edge by the skin. Yes, I'm lifting it up. Here I go. I've gotten it underneath. And then through magic technology, you can see that here it is. And then we're going to go to Lydia. And Lydia has
I get
her
to taste
ECU
it.
pirate mango. See, she has to eat it pirate style because she's from ECU. And then we'll pass
It's a
the
really
rest
good mango.
to Amnon. That's our live demonstration of keeping your elbows in, standing in mountain, and not even cutting yourself while you're doing that. All right. How's that mango, Lydia?
It was really good and ripe, surprisingly.
You need a Band-Aid for that?
No, I don't even need a wash and dry. I'm in a good way. So viewers and listeners, as Lydia was developing and disciplining with mountain, similarly when you're standing and dealing with whether it's daily function or technology, that mountain is an important element for spinal health, maintaining integrity of your vertebra, your muscles, the function of your organs, and also stability of a sharp instrument. Your comments are welcome. Live demonstrations upon request. But back to Lydia, our live guest, who has been teaching in the community with You Call This Yoga. What do you think about the idea of doing blogs? How do blogs help you in expressing? Because we ask our teachers to write a blog. What do you think about that?
Well, I think writing blogs is definitely kind of like writing in a journal. Like you have something that you've created that you've recognized how you're feeling in that present time about a situation. In my example, I was able to write down my experience at the Boys and Girls Club, and it's a great reference to then come back and look at later on, whether it's a month or 2 months or 3 months or even a year after being at the Boys and Girls Club, to kind of see how it's changed, and then writing another blog of where it's become as an organization.
So does that infer, Lydia, that we can count on you for another blog in about 3 or 4 months? Is that, can I?
Yeah, if it's by request, I would have no problem doing so.
Well, that's wonderful. We'll put that in the teacher contract.
Yeah. Oh, and also being able to share the blog with other people, that's definitely fun as well.
Yes, we hope that our organization can be a model as well as a learning point and growth point for teachers throughout the community. As I mentioned, we have 7 at our prior meeting. We have over 10 in our roster. And our organization is looking to focus on adult mobility, youth enrichment, and veteran services in the 2017 year. We have a board of directors, 7 committees, and growing numbers of committee members who do not have to be yoga teachers, but passionate about sharing or having insights into elements of our organization that we can grow from. So we welcome viewers and listeners. If you'd like to learn more about You Call This Yoga, check out the You Call This Yoga website, youcallthisyoga.org. We also have a Facebook page for our events and a YouTube channel, You Call This Yoga, where our videos from our public access show go. Where our show go? Our public access show are loaded. They're laden with chair yoga videos, some inspired by my teacher Lakshmi Volkar. So please do check out Lakshmi Volkar, who is an inspiration for some of You Call This Yoga's elements. So, Lydia, who in your life has been inspiring besides the person on your right?
Good one. Um, I can't even pinpoint one person. I feel like all my instructors that I've gone through have always been inspiring of, what I could learn from and what yoga can become. Also, of course, I always look for my family for inspiration. They're always the first ones to, give me the cold truth about what they think about what I'm doing for a class or, different movements that may not feel as comfortable as I thought. So I always look at my family and also to other instructors as well.
And how about setbacks in your path? Have there been situations, and if it's not comfortable to share that, that's reasonable, since I'm putting you on the spot and we didn't plan this. And if there are, how has your yoga practice been present, or was it even present?
Well, that's a difficult question, to be honest, because every time I feel like there's a setback or maybe an experience or situation that maybe didn't go as well as planned, I don't usually see it as a setback. I actually see of, well, this is what's happened and this is what I can learn from it. So that's a difficult question, to be honest.
Well, that's fair. I didn't expect to give you all easy questions, but then we can also explore further. Have you been like this all along, or is this a skill or a mindset that you've developed?
Well, I've been developing, all my life. But I am at a different place than I was once I graduated from East Carolina University in a good way. And I'm also had a great experience at East Carolina University, but having that transition from being a undergraduate student to actually, I guess, becoming a young or just adult in general, um, definitely has a lot of eye-opening experiences. I'm a lot happier and content with knowing that I don't have to know everything, that I don't have to know where my life's going to be, being able to have goals and also knowing that I have the potential to fulfill them, but recognizing that I'm going to have, you know, maybe even setbacks in the future and just being able to accept that. So that's kind of where I am right now in terms of contentment.
Lovely. Well, that's pretty profound because a lot of folks feel that they have to know and it has to be something, but there's a lot of stress that can be coming about from uncertainty, and society also fosters some degree of stress by perpetuating uncertainty and conflict. How how is it like? Where are you living these days? How are you negotiating being a young adult? Do you have to live on your own, or
No,
what's?
that's what you'd expect, right? But I actually accepted the fact that I might need to go back with my parents and my family to spend some time before I move out in terms of just, economically. And actually, it's been beneficial in terms of being to have stronger relationships with my siblings and being there for them when my sisters are going through college and still, being in high school and then thinking about college.
Mm,
So I do appreciate being able to, support them in terms that I wouldn't be able to if I was living on my own.
mm. So millennials, Gen X's, recent grads, and whatever letters they're applying, it may not be easy to strike out into the world and to be successful based on all the factors that one has to negotiate.
Mhm.
Yoga is a practice, and that Lydia will share another pearl as to how to manage some of these processes.
Regardless of where you are in your practice or what abilities you have, it's very important to practice gratitude in yoga. You can do this in different forms, but I'm going to demonstrate in mountain. So you're going to slowly just start coming towards your natural breath, taking deep inhales and exhales. And you can have a light gaze in anything in the room, or you can slowly start closing your eyes, starting to come towards your center. One mantra to practice gratitude is, "The present self is my truth." And you can do this by taking a deep inhale and repeating "the present self," and then exhale, "is my true self." Again, you're going to inhale and think, "the present self," and exhale, "is my truth." And you can practice that several times at your own pace or wherever you are. But again, I want you guys to recognize how vital it is to practice gratitude in your own yoga practice.
I'm very thankful for many things, of which we have Amnon here, who also has other perspectives about our guests and how he sees the world. Amnon, what have you noticed?
It's something, being a person who came to this country after I grew up in another country. You can't help but notice when I seeing different people and meeting different people, that people who don't have the exact, what do you call it, cookie cutter American way of growing up, cares more about family than the general. And I'm not putting down the American way, because we all came here for a reason. But it's amazing how people from other part of the world care about the family, and the family is playing a big part over here. You know, the average American kid grows up. Are you kidding? Staying at home? What do you mean? You know, so it is refreshing. It's so nice to see when Lydia is saying, you know, that it was beneficial because of the bonding between her and her sibling, helping, being there. It's nice. It's something that's missing in many people's lives.
Thank you for sharing that and the observation. It is important that we know where we came from and who have supported us throughout time. But yes, as we approach Independence Day and that emphasis of independence and uniqueness, that if we're not connected to our base, then we could really be on a path that lacks discipline and may not develop fully. And we appreciate Lydia's perspectives and concepts as she shared them. Lydia, any other thoughts to continue from Amnon's?
Well, I just like to make a remark that, yeah, family's, I guess, been very important to me. And I was kind of stuck in that, limbo. I was like, oh, am I really going to have to go live back with my parents? But, I mean, it's become for the better in terms of relationships. And, yeah, I'm excited to go and volunteer for Amnon, and I'm just looking forward to, getting to know more people, still, being grounded to my family, and just being open to whatever comes my way.
Well, we've been fortunate through now and looking forward to the future of having Lydia and other inspired teachers in our organization, connecting with teachers around the country, the world, also participants and organizations who'd like to learn more about yoga as a service to their participants. We have another wonderful community organizer associating with You Call This Yoga in the near future. In 3 weeks, on July 15th, we'll be having something called Yoga Fest Raleigh Encore, where a friend, Katie Breen, who's been doing community-based yoga at Raleigh City Farm, will do a fundraising class for us. We'll learn more about that as we get closer to July 15th. However, we won't be on the air July 4th. We are taking a break for the holiday. We'll be coming back on July 11th with Marcia Danzig. I met Marcia at the Accessible Yoga Conference. She has a passion and also a special physical situation that she negotiates. What I found very interesting is that conceptually, yoga does help us prepare for loss and coming to grips with what is as the truth. However, that's not easy. Marcia is a specialist in yoga for amputees, and she has experienced a limb loss. So we'll be learning some philosophical and physical perspectives from Marcia next week. I hope you'll... No, I made a mistake. In 2 weeks on July 11th. That's the beauty of a live show. We couldn't edit that out. So if you have more questions for Lydia, please, you can address them at the youcallthisyoga.org website on contact. You can be reaching out to her and our organization through me at howie@youcallthisyoga.org. We have our schedule online at What We Do and /take a class. Let's come back to Lydia and learn a little bit more about some of her future aspirations. She had mentioned something about training to have a graduate degree and some of her anticipation of that degree. I was looking to introduce her to a special organization called El Futuro. Lydia, can you tell us a little bit more about how you might like to apply your degree and what this organization, if you've met them yet, seems like to you?
Yeah, well, I've actually did end up getting in contact with El Futuro, and I'm going to be meeting with one of the therapists there when she gets back from vacation. So I'm definitely looking forward to meeting her because I do want to become a therapist myself in clinical mental health. And I also still want to be consistent with my yoga practice and being able to introduce that into whether it's patients or the community. So the person that I'm meeting with, she's already kind of in that position where she's a therapist and she's also a yoga teacher, and she's implementing basically both together.
And is that Jenna?
Yes, that's Jenna. I don't know if it was okay to mention her name here.
Yes, we can say Jenna 3 times. One more. Jenna. Actually, what's really special about Jenna, too, is Jenna has been part of our teaching team, has been a replacement for me at an assisted living facility. And then when she completed her graduate training, she has moved to full-time practice with El Futuro. And You Call This Yoga has done a pilot study with El Futuro, which provides mental health and family services for Hispanic residents in Durham County. Part of You Call This Yoga's outreach into counties beyond our own. So feel free to check in with us about that if you'd like to learn more about how we've made some headway into bilingual yoga services and other modes that may be of interest to you. So repeating that we do not have a show next week. We have Marcia Danzig, who is sharing about yoga for amputees on July 11th. We have a special fundraiser on July 15th. And welcome your feedback in the chat box or rate a show on the Nissan Communications channel. Special thanks to Lydia Ortega, one of our wonderful star of teachers of You Call This Yoga, and to Amnon for hosting us. Thank you for being with us. We look forward to a safe return with you in 2 weeks. Namaste and safe cutting your mangoes.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety. or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.